The birthday cake said, "Happy 60th, Susan," in pink frosting. 30 guests filled the living room of the Craftsman on Maple Street. The house where I'd grown up, the house my parents had lived in for 25 years. The house I'd quietly purchased 18 months ago. My mother stood at the center of attention, radiant in a blue dress, holding a glass of champagne. My brother Ryan stood beside her, grinning like he'd won the lottery. My sister Olivia perched on the arm of the sofa, recording everything on her phone. Before we cut the cake, Mom announced, "I have some wonderful news to share with all of you." The room quieted. Dad stood in the corner looking uncomfortable. As many of you know, Jack and I have been thinking about downsizing. This house is just too big for the two of us now that the kids are grown. I stood near the kitchen archway, wine glass in hand, watching this unfold. "So we've decided," Mom continued, her voice thick with emotion, "to keep the house in the family. We're dividing it among our children." Applause rippled through the room. Several aunts dabbed at their eyes. "Ryan and his fiancée Madison will get the master bedroom and the upstairs bathroom," Mom said, gesturing to my brother. "They're planning their wedding and they need space to start their life together." Ryan raised his glass. Madison squealed and hugged him. "Olivia will take the 2 bedrooms on the 2nd floor. One for her, one for her art studio." More applause. Olivia bowed dramatically. "And Emma," Mom turned to me with a tight smile, "will get the basement apartment. It's small but cozy. Perfect for someone who's never home anyway." The basement. An unfinished concrete space with a water heater and storage boxes. Not even a real apartment. "We'll all live together as a family again." Mom beamed. "Multi-generational living. Isn't it wonderful?" I took a slow sip of wine. "When did you plan this?" "We've been discussing it for months," Mom said. "We wanted to surprise everyone at the party." "Did you check who actually owns the house before making these plans?" The room went quiet. Mom laughed nervously. "What do you mean? Your father and I own this house." "Do you?" I set down my wine glass. "Dad, when did you last look at the property deed?" Dad's face had gone pale. "Emma, not now." "No, let's do this now. Since we're making housing announcements at birthday parties." I pulled out my phone. "Mom, you said you've been planning this for months. Did anyone think to verify the title? This is our house." Mom's voice rose. "We've lived here for 25 years. You lived here for 25 years. Past tense." I opened my email and pulled up a PDF. "This is the current deed for 847 Maple Street, recorded 18 months ago. Owner, Emma Catherine Reeves." "That's me." Complete silence. Ryan laughed uncertainly. "That's not possible. County records say otherwise." I turned my phone screen toward the crowd. Recorded March 15th of last year. Purchase price, $485,000. I bought this house from Mom and Dad when they were 3 months behind on mortgage payments and facing foreclosure. Mom's champagne glass slipped from her hand, shattering on the hardwood floor I'd had refinished last summer. "You're lying," Olivia said, but her voice shook. "Dad, do you want to tell them? Or should I?" Dad sat down heavily, his face in his hands. 18 months ago, I continued, Dad called me at midnight. The bank was threatening foreclosure. They owed $485,000 and couldn't make payments. Mom's medical bills from her surgery had drained their savings. Dad's business was struggling. They were 60 days from losing everything. "We worked it out." Mom protested weakly. "I worked it out. I bought the house. Paid off the mortgage in full. Let you live here rent-free with the understanding that you'd be downsizing eventually. I've been covering property taxes, insurance and maintenance ever since." Ryan's face had gone red. "Why didn't you tell us?" "Dad asked me not to. Said it would be embarrassing. Said you didn't need to know." I looked at my father. "Right, Dad?" He nodded miserably. "So I stayed quiet. Paid the bills. Let you believe everything was fine. And now you're trying to divide up my house among yourselves like I don't exist." Mom was crying now. "The basement apartment is still part of the house." "The basement isn't an apartment. It's concrete and exposed pipes. You were literally giving me the worst space in a house I own." Madison whispered something to Ryan. He shook his head violently. "Here's what's actually happening," I said calmly. "I own this house. I've owned it for 18 months. And I own something else too. I pulled up another document on my phone. This is my real estate portfolio. Want to see what else I bought in this neighborhood? I walked to the center of the room holding up my phone. 849 Maple Street next door. Bought it 6 months ago when the Johnsons retired to Florida. 851 Maple Street. Bought it last year as a rental property. 845 Maple. That's the corner lot. Purchased 3 months ago. The room was dead silent. In total, I own 7 properties on this block. This house, 3 others on Maple Street, 2 on Oak Avenue, and 1 on the corner of Maple and 5th. Total portfolio value, approximately $3.2 million. Aunt Linda gasped audibly. My real estate investment company, Reeves Property Holdings, manages all of them. I've been building this portfolio for 4 years while you all thought I was never home because I was working too much. That's impossible, Olivia whispered. You're only 30 years old. I'm 30 years old with a degree in finance, 8 years as a senior investment analyst, and the sense to save my money instead of spending it on things I can't afford. I looked pointedly at Ryan's new BMW parked outside. Some of us plan for the future. Mom grabbed the back of the sofa for support. Why didn't you tell us? Because every time I mentioned my job, you dismissed it. Playing with spreadsheets, you called it. Boring number crunching. You never asked what I actually did or how much I made. You just assumed I was struggling like Ryan. Ryan flinched. I'm not struggling. You're 32 and still asking Mom for gas money. Madison, did he tell you he's $60,000 in debt? That his credit cards are maxed out? Madison's eyes widened. He took a step away from Ryan. How do you know that? Ryan demanded. Because I run credit checks on my tenants. And because Dad mentioned it when he was explaining why you couldn't help with the mortgage crisis. This is a private family matter. Mom shrieked. Then you shouldn't have announced housing arrangements at a party with 30 witnesses. I gestured to the shocked faces around us. You made this public. I'm just correcting the record. Dad finally spoke, his voice broken. What happens now? Now. You have 60 days to find somewhere else to live. I'm selling this house. Mom gasped. You can't. I absolutely can. It's my house. I've already had it appraised. With the renovations I've done, it's worth $625,000. I'll make a substantial profit. Where are we supposed to go? Olivia asked. That's not my problem. You're 33 years old with a job. Figure it out. You're throwing us out? Ryan's voice cracked. Your own family? No. I'm reclaiming my property from family members who just tried to divide it up without consulting me. Slight difference. The party ended within 10 minutes. Guests fled like the house was on fire. Aunt Linda hugged me on her way out, whispering, "Good for you." My family stood in the ruins of the celebration. Broken glass on the floor. Uneaten cake on the table. 30 years of family dysfunction finally visible. You planned this, Mom said coldly. You waited for my birthday to humiliate me. I planned nothing. You announced your housing arrangements. I corrected them. If you'd asked me privately, we could have had a different conversation. A conversation where you still say no, Ryan spat. Probably. Because I own the house, not you. And I've been subsidizing your lives long enough. Subsidizing? Olivia looked genuinely confused. Who do you think paid for the new roof last year? The HVAC replacement? The foundation repair? The property taxes? I've invested $140,000 in maintenance and taxes over 18 months. Dad's head was still in his hands. I thought eventually we could work something out. That maybe you'd let us buy it back. With what money, Dad? You're further in debt now than you were 18 months ago. Mom's still spending like nothing happened. Ryan can't cover his own rent. And Olivia's art career generates about $200 a month. Each word landed like a physical blow. You've become cruel, Mom said, her voice shaking. I've become realistic. You wanted to give me a basement while dividing my house among everyone else. That's cruel. I'm just refusing to be erased. What do you want from us? Dad asked. An apology? I want you to see me. Really see me. Not as the quiet daughter who'll fix things silently. Not as the backup plan. As the person who saved your house and built something you can't even comprehend. Mom wiped her eyes, mascara streaking. We always knew you were smart with money. You knew I existed when you needed something. The rest of the time I was invisible. Silence fell over the room, broken only by Mom's quiet crying. 60 days, I repeated firmly. I'm listing the house next week. The property management company has already drawn up rental agreements for the other properties on the block. You're welcome to apply like any other tenant, but you'll go through the same screening process. You'd make your own parents apply to rent from you? Ryan looked disgusted. I'd make anyone apply. That's how business works. Though given Dad's credit score and Mom's debt-to-income ratio, I doubt you'd qualify. The cruelty of it hung in the air. But I was done being gentle with people who'd tried to erase me from my own property. I left them in the wreckage of the party and drove to my real home, a modern condo downtown that I'd bought 2 years ago. 2 bedrooms, floor-to-ceiling windows, a view of the city skyline. The place I'd never mentioned to my family because they'd never asked where I lived. My phone exploded with messages within the hour. Ryan, you're dead to me. Olivia, how can you do this to Mom on her birthday? Mom, I will never forgive you for this humiliation. Dad, please call me. We need to talk. I blocked Ryan and Olivia. Left Dad's message unanswered. Poured a glass of wine and stood at my window, looking out over the 7 properties I owned in the old neighborhood. My phone rang. James Sullivan, my real estate attorney. I heard you had an interesting evening. News travels fast. Your mother called my office screaming about illegal eviction. I explained you can't illegally evict people from a house you legally own. She hung up on me. She's good at that. The listing goes live Monday. I've already had 2 investors express interest. This market is hot. Good. The sooner it sells, the better. And your parents? Where will they actually go? There's a decent apartment complex on 5th Street. 2-bedroom units for $1,400 a month. Within their budget if they're careful. You looked into it. Of course I did. I'm not a monster. I just refuse to be invisible anymore. After we hung up, I opened my laptop and reviewed my portfolio. 7 properties. 8 if I counted my condo. Total value approaching $4 million. Annual rental income of $180,000 after expenses. Built from nothing. From spreadsheets and compound interest and saying no to family members who wanted things I'd earned. At 30 years old, I'd accomplished more than my parents had in their entire lives. And they'd tried to give me a basement. 60 days later, the house sold. A young family from California relocating for work, cash buyers. They paid $635,000. $10,000 over asking. My parents moved into a 2-bedroom apartment on 5th Street. Exactly where I'd anticipated. Dad got a full-time job at an accounting firm. Mom stopped talking to me entirely. Ryan moved in with Madison's parents after she discovered the full extent of his debt. Their engagement ended 2 weeks later. Olivia found a studio apartment and got a job at a marketing firm. She was the only one who sent me a text. I get it now. Sorry for being blind. I didn't respond. But I didn't block her either. 6 months after the birthday party, I bought 2 more properties. A duplex on Oak Avenue and a small commercial building downtown. My portfolio hit $5 million. The news ran a feature on young real estate investors. They interviewed me for it. Used my photo. Called me one to watch in the local market. Mom saw it online. I know because Aunt Linda told me. She cried when she read it, Linda said. Finally understood what you'd built while they weren't paying attention. Is she sorry? She's embarrassed. Which isn't quite the same thing. Oh, it wasn't. But it was something. And for now that would have to be enough. A year after the birthday party disaster, I stood in front of my newest acquisition. A historic building on Main Street that I was converting into mixed-use retail and apartments. 12 units total. My biggest project yet. My phone rang. Dad's number. I'd unblocked him 6 months ago but hadn't answered any of his calls. Today something made me pick up. Emma. Dad. A long pause. I saw the article in the Business Journal. About your Main Street project. And I wanted to say, I'm proud of you. I should have said it a year ago. Should have said it every day for the past decade. I watched construction workers frame out the 2nd floor. Why didn't you? Because I was ashamed. You saved us and I couldn't even acknowledge it. Easier to pretend everything was fine than face the fact that my 30-year-old daughter had to rescue her parents. So you tried to give my house away. Your mother's idea. I should have stopped it. Should have told her the truth about who really owned it. But I was too much of a coward. The honesty surprised me. Where is this coming from? Therapy. Your mother and I started going after we moved. Turns out we had a lot to work through. He laughed bitterly. Took losing everything to figure that out. How is she? Angry. Starting to understand what she lost. Not the house, you. She asks about you constantly but won't call because she's too proud. Some things never change. Some things do. Ryan's in rehab. Not drugs, just financial counseling and therapy. Madison's decision to leave was a wake-up call. He's actually working now. Real job, steady income. Good for him. Olivia mentions you sometimes. Says you unblocked her last month. I had. She'd sent occasional texts. Nothing heavy, just updates. Small steps toward something that might eventually resemble a relationship. Emma, I'm not calling to ask for anything. I just wanted you to know I see you now. Really see you. What you built, what you accomplished, how strong you had to be while we took you for granted. My throat tightened unexpectedly. Okay. And I'm sorry. For all of it. For not protecting you at that party. For letting your mother plan to give you a basement. For 30 years of treating you like you were less important than your siblings. Why was I less important? He was quiet for a long time. Because you never seemed to need us. You were always so independent, so capable. Ryan and Olivia were always asking for help, always struggling. You just handled everything. Made it look easy. It wasn't easy. I know that now. But we told ourselves you were fine so we could focus on the kids who were falling apart. We failed you, Emma. Completely. I watched the sun set behind my building, and felt something shift. Not forgiveness exactly. But maybe the beginning of understanding. I'm having a ribbon-cutting ceremony next month, I said quietly. For the Main Street project. You and Mom can come if you want. Bring Olivia and Ryan if they're interested. Really? One event. No promises beyond that. But you can see what I built. We'll be there. His voice cracked. Thank you. Don't thank me yet. You're still not getting a free apartment. He laughed. A real laugh. Wouldn't dream of asking. The ribbon-cutting ceremony drew 200 people. Local business owners, city council members, my investment partners, the press. I stood at the podium in a navy suit looking out at the crowd. In the third row sat my parents. Dad in his best suit. Mom in a dress I'd never seen before, her makeup carefully applied. Next to them, Olivia smiled encouragingly. Ryan sat at the end looking uncomfortable but present. 5 years ago, I bought my first property. A duplex that needed extensive renovation. People said I was too young, too inexperienced, too ambitious. Today I'm celebrating my 15th acquisition and my largest project to date. Applause rippled through the crowd. This building represents more than just real estate investment. It represents the power of vision, persistence, and believing in yourself even when others don't. Especially when others don't. My eyes found my mother's. She was crying quietly, Dad's arm around her shoulders. Thank you all for being here today. Let's build something great together. The ribbon fell. Cameras flashed. People surged forward to congratulate me. My family waited until the initial rush subsided before approaching. Mom hung back while Dad stepped forward. That was a beautiful speech.